Hi everybody, my name is Garth Harwood, Director of Education here at Hidden Villa, and I am here today to talk to you about energy and fuels that human beings use and the natural resources from which they come. You know, when you look out at these hills here at Hidden Villa, you see trees everywhere. It seems as though it must always have been that way. But you know, when the pioneers first established towns and ranches and things like that in this area, they didn't have a source of energy and fuel as in other parts of the world. There weren't big supplies of coal, there weren't natural gas or oil reserves that they knew how to get to. So what did they use to power the early industries of this area? Firewood. Every tree on these hills at one time was cut down and the hills were left bare. Eventually they grew back, but at one time, picture all of that gone. That was a lot of fuel to fire the wood stoves in people's homes, but also for early industries such as sawmills. Great mounds of firewood were burnt to generate steam to power machines such as a steam donkey, which powered the saw blades in the sawmills of the early days here in this part of California. So we're probably glad that we no longer power our industry with firewood, or these hills would still be bare today. On the other hand, you can still use the energy and fuel from firewood in enjoyable ways. So today, we're going to make a campfire on a small scale and show you how we can still access the energy from the fuel of firewood from the natural resources of all these renewable trees around us. So why don't we use fire for energy today? Well, there was a cost to all that too. It actually generated a great deal of pollution. Burning firewood actually releases more carbon to the atmosphere than most other forms of fuel. So if we did it on a big scale, that would be a problem. So air pollution is one thing, but on the other hand, trees themselves have a lot of other uses. Maybe we like them where they are even better. They generate oxygen, they hold the soil in place on our mountaintops, and they're beautiful. They provide us a shady place to go and see the wildlife. And the wildlife appreciate having them around as their habitat as well. So nowadays at Hidden Villa, we leave our trees where they are, but sometimes we gather the extra wood that dies naturally, and we could make a little campfire with it. So here are the key ingredients for our little campfire today. First, we're going to use some tinder, some very light, very dry, that's very important, very dry material that will start easily from a match being held to it. Next, we'll need some little sticks called kindling. Gradually, we'll work our way up to bigger and bigger dry sticks. Dry is probably the single most important thing. You can see it's kind of a damp day here at Hidden Villa, so it's going to take very dry fuel to get started. Now, I left the most important ingredient right here in the bag. It's a little bit hard to see at first because it's air. The oxygen in the air in here, oxygen is the hidden secret ingredient to making a successful campfire that people often forget. Of course, I could use the paper bag for fuel as well, couldn't I? Because that's also made from trees. Okay, I'm going to take two flat pieces and put them down, or I can put the tinder on top, and that will keep my tinder, the very fine material that I'll hold the match to, away from the damp ground. And then, of course, I'm going to need a match. I'll get the little sticks of our kindling in place before I strike a match to the tinder. Right now, it doesn't look like there's a lot of energy in this fuel, but just wait. There's a little tiny flame. You might see a little smoke. And here comes the first bit of flame in our new campfire. Sometimes it helps add a little extra oxygen. by blowing on a young campfire. Can you tell there's smoke coming off of this campfire? If there was a whole lot of it, that would be an unacceptable amount of air pollution, huh? But a fire this small, it's not such a big deal. Gradually, I put the bigger and bigger sticks on, and our little campfire is still very tiny, but I can already feel the heat, energy rising from the fuel we've ignited. So as I mentioned before, we can still have a little campfire now and again. We can release that energy from the fuel we call firewood. But today, we use different kinds of fuels. So I'd like to finish up by asking you, what kinds of fuels have replaced firewood to power industry and to heat our homes and to fuel our cars in our times? And what are the benefits and costs of those forms of natural resources that are used for modern fuel to release energy? If you answered oil and gas, those are some of the most common ones. But you may be aware that they also produce some pollution. So are they a perfect solution? Probably not. So now we're thinking more about things like solar energy from the sun that doesn't create any pollution at all. So thanks for thinking about all this with me. This is Garth from Hidden Villa saying, thanks for listening, folks.